G'day there, it's Ben from Pumped On Property here and welcome to the Pumped On Property Show podcast. Now, sorry I've been missing in action for the last week. I actually just got back from the Melbourne Cup cruise. It's the first time I was down there in Melbourne for the Cup, and let me just say it is a huge piss-up fest. There's not too much more to it than that, just a huge amount of gambling. For me and my friends that went down and my wife, a fair few bottles of champagne, and we actually picked a few winners, which was really good fun as well. So we actually flew from our home in the Sunshine Coast and we got on the boat in Sydney, and then we sailed from Sydney down to the Cup there in Melbourne, which was a lot of fun, and then sailed back to Sydney and flew back to the coast. So it was the first kid-free trip for my wife and I in literally 3.5 years, which was amazing. Just lots of sleeping, training, lots of drinks, and we were on the boat with about 14 of our friends, so it was a really, really good time. But in today's episode, I wanted to keep this one nice and short and sweet and really talk about how to build a world-class team of advisors. A couple of parts that we're going to talk about in relation to this. We're going to talk about who should be in this team of, again, we're talking about property investing here, so who should be in your team of property investment advisors. I'm going to talk about how to find the right advisors and questions to ask them. You've got to sort of interview them, treat them like they're an employee that you're hiring, and then how to keep them accountable, and also how to put your trust in these people as well. So for me, there's 3 key players in my team of advisors. There's probably 4 for me personally. There is my solicitor, who I've had a really strong relationship now with for about the last 6 years, and he is an incredible guy. He runs a very, very good business, but more than that, he's an investor himself and he's financially free at a very young age. So I have a lot of respect for my solicitor, and he's a key part of my team of advisors. I also have a pretty good accountant. I'd say there's no perfect accountant. Accountants are the hardest person in your team to actually find. I like to see my accountant face to face. Other people don't mind doing it via correspondence. I just find accountants by nature, no disrespect, like some of my best friends are accountants, are just so conservative and they just don't think outside the box. So I felt like as I've got more sophisticated as an investor, I've been the one taking ideas to them, to the point where now I've actually got a second accountant who audits the work of my first accountant for about an extra $700 per year, just to make sure. And that $700 I paid him last year actually saved me about $25,000 in tax that my other accountant missed. So it's really important to keep your accountant accountable, but having a good one is absolutely vital. The third person in my team is my mortgage broker, and he is by far the strongest player in my team of advisors. Aaron's an incredible broker. He owns over 25 investment properties completely outright. He's been in the game forever and he's completely financially free. So if every one of my advisors was at Aaron's level, I'd be absolutely stoked. And then the fourth person in my team is my buyer's agent. Now, even though I run a buyer's agency business and I've obviously bought a lot of properties for myself and for our clients, I still look to my sister as my personal buyer's agent, and just to keep myself at arm's length from the market and make sure that I'm making effective and the right decisions when I'm buying for myself. Now, I've only really started to engage her. She's probably helped me buy my last 5 properties. Before that, I bought a lot of the stuff myself, and it's her and I doing it together, but I never want to be that investor that gets caught out with their personal bias, and I had done that before in the past where I'd made decisions based on intuition as opposed to data and made losses there or made mistakes. So she's sort of like my sounding board. You guys all know Crystal, and she's incredible. Like, she has a photographic memory. She has the best knowledge, I believe, out of any buyer's agent in Australia in the southeast Queensland market right now, and she's well on her way to financial freedom as a very young lady as well. So she's been a big part of that team. Now, outside of that, there's the second tier, which is my property managers, my building and pest inspectors, my town planners. For some of you out there, you may need a financial advisor as well, depending on your stage of life. Again, I've talked to a lot of financial advisors because I thought I wanted that person in my team, but to me, 90% of them are just filled with absolute shit. They sell you insurance products, they sell you income protection, they sell you life insurances, they change your super fund from wherever it is to wherever they get the biggest cut. None of them fucking understand anything about cycles or timing. You know, I'm yet to find a financial advisor that I truly trust, and most of them only make their money out of their businesses or out of their jobs. They're not actually financially free. In fact, almost all of the financial advisors that I know are fucking broke. So it's sad that there's this accreditation and people go to these financial advisors and they expect them to do good stuff. Like, my dad's financial advisor is probably one of the worst I've ever seen. My dad made the call in 2007. He saw the GFC coming and he told his financial advisor to pull the $1 million he had in super out. The financial advisor's like, no, everything's fine. And then my dad lost 50% of that, 500K. I believe that there's a correction at the moment coming as well. I think it will come within the next year and a half in the American and possibly the Australian stock markets. And I've provided my dad with just my idea, which I think it's time to get into cash. My mum has listened to me this time because she doesn't want to lose half her money again, but my dad's still listening to this fuckwit. So, you know, these guys just don't understand it, and I can't believe someone that's been in the game for 30 years still doesn't understand fucking timing. Like, so many of these financial advisors are just crooks, and, you know, it'd be awesome if the government turned their eye to financial advisors like they've just done with the banks. So they're the team. Sorry about my rant there, but fucking financial advisors, man. You know, so many of them just sell dog shit brand new property to people as well, like that they get huge undisclosed commissions on the back end of. It's just a crooked game. So in terms of that, there's the who. You've got your solicitor, accountant, broker, you've got your buyer's agent, then you've got your property manager, building and pest inspector, town planner, you've got your financial advisor, and then you've got your builders, your renovators and your trades. So, you know, whether that's a granny flat builder or a home builder, whatever project that you're working through. And if you go into that development space, you've obviously got a couple of other people around there as well, like different types of engineers, etc. In terms of the how, I'm a big believer in working with people who don't just talk the talk but walk it. So I want all of my advisors to have a huge amount of experience in the game and personal skin in the game, if not completely financially free already through property. So I ask for referrals. You know, it's taken me a long time, over 10 years, to build the current team I've got in place now, but I'm very, very confident with my current team for me personally. You know, I don't trust people very easily. I don't trust a lot of advisors because they've got a financial interest in, you know, a certain product. But what I have found is that the right advisor has just added so much value to my life. Like, my mortgage broker, solicitor and accountant have completely changed the game for me and given me so many different ideas that have made and saved me so much money. So I asked for referrals when I was just getting started off friends and family. What I should have done is, you know, thought about the person that I was asking. If the person only owns one property or two properties, I'm probably not going to take a referral from them because I haven't had enough experience with that advisor to see if the advisor's any good. I don't judge an advisor by how good they are in a rising marketplace when anybody can do the job. You know, I really look at the quality of the advisor based on you know, their personal experiences and their experiences with their clients in all types of environments. So, you know, if you find someone that's financially free or that someone's in a very, very strong financial position, chances are they've had a bunch of advisors and they've been stitched up and ripped off by some, like I have, probably like you have as well. And they've probably also found some very good ones. But, you know, go get some referrals. You know, Google might be another way to find some different advisors in your local area. You know, if that's the case and you're going on Google, then you've really got to talk to at least, you know, 3 to 5 different advisors until you find the right one. But yeah, I think referrals from someone who's already financially free, and And, you know, just be careful if your advisors start referring you to everyone they know. So I know a lot of accountants and financial advisors, for example, introduce a lot of their clients directly to people in their network that they're getting undisclosed commissions from for the referral. So just be very, very aware there that there's a whole back thing going on behind the scenes, and a good advisor will be very, very clear of who they get referrals from and who they don't. Now, the next thing that I wanted to touch on is questions to ask your advisor. Now, this is questions when you're originally going through the motions of finding the right advisor and, you know, effectively vetting them to make sure that they are the right partner for you. Now, the first thing that I ask anybody is, what have you personally done? I don't care what your business has done. I don't care what, you know, experience someone else around you has had. I don't care where you're going. Show me what you've done. So what investments have you made? When did you make those investments? What have been the result of those investments as well? Because I want results-orientated people. I don't want people carrying shitty properties in bad locations that don't tick my personal boxes. I want advisors that are in line with me. So ultimately, I want my advisors to all be financially free already. But if they're not on their way to if they're not financially free now, I want them well on the way, or to be, financial freedom through their business isn't enough for me. I want my advisors to be financially free through the asset class that's important to me, which is property investing. So that's the first thing I ask. Are they investors? What has been the result of that? How long have they been doing that? Second is, are they financially free through those investments, or what is their plan to become financially free? I then ask them, what is their experience personally in the industry that they're in, professionally in the industry that they're in? How long have they been doing it for? And at what level have they been doing it for? What does their average client look like? Am I that average client? And a good example of this is a lot of accountants, for example. Like, you could find like a H&R Block accountant who specialize in doing tax returns for people earning under 50 grand a year. And that's cool. Like, their average client's a 50 grand client. But if you're currently earning $100,000 or $300,000 a year or $1 million a year, then you need somebody who specializes in $300,000 clients to $1 million client per year. And if that's where you want to be in the future, if you want to earn good money through your job, through your business, through your investments, then you really need to work with someone who works with people that are already in that space all the time. So I went and spoke with a client recently, an accountant, because I was looking around at different options. I wasn't 100% happy with my current one, and I went and had conversations with a few of them, and one of them said to me, like, completely lied straight to my face, that they work with clients that earn an average of over $1 million a year with an average of 6+ properties. And then I talked to a couple of people that he gave to me, and those people weren't in anywhere near that position. He said that 80% of his book looked like that, and I said, well, that's absolute bullshit, because that's not the reality of the Sunshine Coast. And then I went and talked to another accountant, and then he started giving me names of people that were earning good money and businesses that these people worked for. And I said, well, as somebody who doesn't like talking too much about my personal position financially, I don't want my accountant breaching my privacy and talking to people about my position as a young person that's doing okay. And these things are all very, very important. So understanding what their average client looks like means you can understand what their speciality is. If they specialize in, shares, for example, and you're not a trader, then that's a misalignment. If they specialize in people that are earning huge money and you're not, then that might be a good thing, because they can help you get there. It may be a bad thing, but I want my accountant to specialize in business people as well as investors. So that's the type of accountant that I sort of practice. And I'm very, very low risk, as you guys all know, by nature. So I also want my accountant to be low risk. I definitely don't want him cooking my books or doing anything that could trigger any sorts of red flags in the future, because I believe that it's about building a long-term brand and about long-term sustainable wealth, not short-term how much can I save type thing. So you've also got to be careful with your accountant that they don't write off too much of your taxable income, and then that enables you to not borrow money for a property, which I've had that experience before. A lot of accountants just want to save you income tax. You also want to, when you're talking through your accountant, you know, you really want them to understand where you're going as well, and talk about structuring you in the right way and the safest way with them as well, for now and in the future. So I also ask them, whether it's my accountant, solicitor, broker, or anybody else, how many clients they currently have and how many people they've worked with in the past, just to get a bit of an idea. And then my favorite question is always results. You know, what is the result if I was to come and work with you versus somebody else? How can you help me get from A to B in terms of where I want to be? And how have you helped people in similar positions do the same thing? And then I don't just leave it at that. I ask for physical names and numbers of people that I can call that are in a similar position, that have an experience with that advisor, and I get their experience from them firsthand as well. Because if they're not prepared to give you names and numbers, then they're not the right advisor for me, just because I 100% want to know with confidence that they can deliver for me. So that's kind of who, that's kind of the how you find them, through the referrals. And then they're the questions that I ask. You know, I'm a hard ass from that perspective. I really want the quality of my team to be absolutely world class and as good as it can be. It's taken me a long time to get to that point, but I realize that as investors, we can't get there on our own. It is really down to the quality of your team of advisors. So, you know, make sure you take the time to find the right advisors. You know, I'm not really like a give a person a chance type of guy. I want to do my research up front to know that that's the right person before I start the process of working with them, because everyone that I work with, I want a long-term relationship with. I don't just want a transaction with a mortgage broker or a building and pest inspector. I want that building and pest inspector or broker to be with me for the next 30 years as I grow as a person and as an investor. So a question that I've thought about a lot is, how do you actually keep these team of advisors accountable? You could call this managing up. You know, it's really, really important to understand that just because you found the right advisor doesn't mean that you can leave them off in the wild and expect them to always do everything in terms of the best possible way. They're people as well, they make mistakes, and some advisors just don't grow all the time. So it's important for you to keep them accountable, and for you to keep yourself accountable to make sure that you're doing the best thing. You know, an example of this is getting that second accountant to actually review my first accountant's stuff. You know, I just had a gut feel that something wasn't 100% right, and I wanted a second opinion, and that second opinion saved me $25,000 last financial year. So, you know, that's huge money that we're talking about that I would have paid to the tax department and never got back again. So, you know, it's important to keep those people accountable and to make sure that you do have the right people around you and in your life to support where it is that you want to go. So one of the ways that I keep them accountable is, you know, I always want my advisor to be more intelligent than I am in their particular space, but I'm also continually learning and growing. And one of the benefits from talking to over 6,000 investors in the last 10 years, personally and as a business person, is that I get lots of little ideas all of the time. And you know, when the accountant says this is what your tax return is going to be, or this is how much tax you have to pay this year, I always question it. I'm not just going, okay, let's sign off on that. It is, why am I paying that amount of money? Is there any way we can do anything to tweak it? Is there any way to save it? And I sit down with them for literally 2 or 3 hours 2 times before I sign off on those tax returns to make sure nothing has been missed. You know, in relation to all of my other accountants, all of my other advisors outside of my accountant, you know, when I'm working with my solicitor on a purchase, or my mortgage broker, or my buyer's agent, or my property manager, my building and pest inspector, I'm being proactive. I just set up a little note in my calendar, and each week during that purchase period or settlement period, I just give them a quick call and say, how's everything going? What do you need me to do? Is there anything that we're missing here? And it's a quick 1-minute call, just checking in to remain top of mind with that person. Before I make any decision these days, I always speak to my accountant about it. I always speak to my mortgage broker about it. I always speak to my sister and buyer's agent about it as well, because I don't want to be blindsided by a bias that I might have. I want to get different ideas from different people who think completely different to me, and I think that's what a world-class team will do for you. You'll find people that you don't necessarily always agree with. Like, me and my mortgage broker get in fights all the fucking time. Me and my accountant get in fights all the time as well. I know I'm a pain in their ass, but I'm diligent with everything that I do because I've lost and cost myself such big money by making mistakes. So it's important to get that stuff right and to keep them accountable. And, you know, you've also got to remember that they're people too, and you're all learning and growing together as well. So as long as they've got a growth mindset and a commitment to continuous improvement and education, then I'll move with them. But, you know, the second that I start seeing them moving away from my best interest, then, you know, that's the time to ice an accountant. The last thing I wanted to talk about is trust. And the reason I'm bringing this up on today's podcast is I was speaking with a client this morning, an absolute legend of a dude, got great savings, got great potential to work towards financial freedom, got a great income, got the right skill set, got the right mindset to be a great investor, but he just doesn't trust anyone. He is so, you know, for some reason he must have been brought up that everybody is trying to rip him off. And I used to have a similar mindset. Like, most people that are poor or that grow up without any money have that mindset where money's bad, or they have to micromanage everything, or they have to be on every single detail. You know, and that's completely fine. Like, I have a bit of that in my personality, but once you've got the right advisors in place, and once you've got a world-class team, once you've asked them the right questions and know that you need to keep them accountable, you need to trust them that they have your best interest at heart and they are doing the right job. Like, not everybody in the property industry is trying to take your money or trying to rip you off or trying to just make money off your back. There's a lot of people in the property industry and the finance industry that genuinely give a shit about helping you. And by helping you, it obviously helps them in their business as well. Because like you, your accountant, your mortgage broker, your solicitor, your buyer's agent is trading time away from their family and the things that they care about in their life. So they need to make money like you need to make money at your job, but they also should give a shit about you, and at some point you have to trust those advisors to do what they do. Now, that's taken me a long time to do. Like, I deeply trust a number of my advisors, and I basically don't second guess them anymore because they've built trust with me through experience over time. You know, but that doesn't mean that I completely leave them off the hook and don't keep them accountable. But you've got to trust, if you're going to work with a buyer's agent or a mortgage broker or solicitor, that they have experiences that you don't, that they have knowledge and skills that you don't, and that they are trying to genuinely do the right thing by you. But, you know, that doesn't mean blindly following their advice. You still have to do your own due diligence and keep them accountable and make sure they're providing you with the right information at the right time. But trust is a big part of this, because if you can't trust your advisors, good advisors just aren't going to spend time with you. You're going to become a pain in their ass, and they're not going to, you know, high value people that are already financially free with high energy levels want to hang around other people like that. And if you want a world-class of advisors around you, a world-class team of advisors, then you have to become a world-class investor, and you have to become someone that's interesting enough and knowledgeable enough to roll with those advisors. You know, you can't just micromanage them with your limited amount of experiences, and, you know, just because you don't trust anyone from a deep belief values perspective, you need to slowly learn how to let go of that and trust that the right team around you will actually get you the right results. So I hope you've enjoyed this podcast on talking about how to build a world-class team of advisors. It's not going to happen immediately. You're going to have some people that you think are good right now that end up being shithouse in the future once you know more. You're going to have some people that are fantastic right now that hopefully can grow with you as an investor over the next 15 to 30 years. You know, I absolutely love what we do, and the right advisor should be passionate about what they do, not just check in and check out. There are some great advisors around there. There's some people that are financially free already that could really help you out. You know, I believe for our average client, for example, that we probably save them at least 5 years on their property investment journey. That's 5 years of work that the average client doesn't have to go to work for in the future because of the knowledge and skills that they build up with us over a 2 to 4 month period. So, you know, good luck with building your team. If you'd like a referral to some of the dudes in my team and you're not just going to waste their fucking time, like, let's get real. you know, these people are such high value advisors. I just don't introduce them out to anybody. You've got to be serious about it, and you've got to be seriously considering doing stuff. But if you'd like an introduction, just jump over to Pumped On Property and hit us up, and we'll do our best to introduce you to some of these amazing people that we've built really strong relationships with over time, and that I personally work with. Now, they're not perfect, like I'm not perfect, like you're not perfect, and the second you realize that, then you can have a much, much deeper, more trusting relationship with those people, because at the end of the day, we're all people just trying to do our best. But building a world-class team of advisors is absolutely possible if you know the right people. So good luck with your journey. I wish you all the best, and can't wait to continue this conversation with you again shortly. Bye.